Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, with me, Gretta Chamberlain, and the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, which is one of the vehicles that supports the transmission of the Realm of Beings, is here to assist you in delving into your being by providing numerous topics and discussions for you to intake as you deepen your connection with your inner world. Shifting Impressions is here to assist you in strengthening yourself as you excavate to understand your true nature. Join us today and learn to shift your mindset, shift your thoughts, and shift your focus to recreate your life and produce a new you. Shifting Impressions starts now.
Hello, and welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Leigh, and I'm here with Gretta and Carol, and as always, the Realm of Beings. And we're very happy to be on Transformation Network every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And of course, if you're not listening at 11, you can find us on any of your favorite streaming stations. This podcast will help you look at your life and your creation of reality, what you are creating, how it shows up, and maybe you can look at things newly and shift your perspective. So each week we take a quotation that Greta has downloaded from the Realm of Beings and we discuss it. And then midway, the realm gets to weigh in. So before we start our quotation for this week, Carol has some announcements she'd like to make about where you can find Gretta in perhaps your local area coming up.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, depending on where you're located. This Friday, which would be today when this is airing, Saturday and Sunday. So that's October 27, 28, and 29. You can see Gretta live at the New Life Expo in Brooklyn, New York. The address is the B like boy, K, Loft 26, 153 26th Street. So please go and join her. You will be very impressed with the presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Carol. So if you're in the New York tri-state area and you have some time this weekend, Gretta would love to see you. So this week on the podcast, our quotation is, "Peace is an experience in which you connect deeply with your inner being. It must be accomplished first within and then can be translated externally." So ladies, peace is on our docket today. And where would we like to start? I can start something if no one else wants to chime in.
Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking that it says peace is within, right? Connect deeply with your inner peace. And peace is an experience in which you connect deeply with your inner being. Carol, if you don't mind.
Sure. I'll wait and go get some water. Well, since we're extending our quotes about prosperity, I saw this as peace being the ultimate prosperity one can have. If you have peace within yourself, everything in your life would be perfect. You would have abundance, you would have no worries. It definitely is an internal feeling that you must achieve before you can externally show it to others. But I'm looking at it as the ultimate prosperity. If you have peace, you can have everything.
Okay, I think Leigh was she's coming back.
No,
she's not.
She needs a Ricola.
I think that one thing about it when we say that it's internal is because a lot of times we're joining groups that want to pray for peace or meditate on peace. And so they look at the acquiring peace from outside. And that is not where you acquire peace. You've got to acquire peace within yourself first, because everything starts with you, because you're creating your reality. So if you're thinking it's an external thing, then that means it is not in you. It's not, you're not functioning with it. You're not honoring it. You're not holding it. And this is what you want to do. You want to hold it within yourself, because you can't extend it to others. Because, all right, we have, remember we've said create, support, support, create. We said that's a protocol. That's a affirmation or a statement that fits within existence. So if I have to create support, I have to create peace within me, because then you will support me in it. So, and then if you're supporting me in it, then you're in peace, and then the next person has to support you in it. So it really travels. You know, creation of reality travels. It doesn't just sit down in one place. And we're introducing the term reverberation. It reverberates to a lot of other aspects of your life. You know, my daughter said to me once, and I mentioned this at the podcast maybe way back, that she said, "Mom, they're praying for peace, world peace. So I'd like you to do that with me. We can do it all together with the other people." And I told her, I said, I can't do that. You know, she was taken aback by that at first, because she said, "You can't pray for peace?" I said, "It's not a matter of me praying for peace, Kai. That means if I'm praying for it, that means it's not there. So I'm looking into the future to see if I, through working with a collective group of other people, can put the energy out there that will create peace." So we've already, in that case, already acknowledged that peace does not exist. It's not there. So in creation of reality, it's important to see something done already, not to see it in the future that is coming. It's already here. We have to see it here and now in this present moment, because that's what we have. Everything is occurring simultaneously. Even when I was coming out of my mother's womb, it's still happening. It's still going on. It doesn't stop. So the whole idea of peace is for me to see that it exists. It is there. We are in it. So therefore, there becomes no need to pray for it.
But I have a question about that, Greta, because I mean, if there is something called reverberation, right? And if creation of reality can reverberate. So if, let's just say, there are 10 people who were feeling peaceful inside in that moment, and they want to sit down together to amplify the feeling that they're already feeling internally, just to put it out there, not saying that it doesn't exist, but I mean, seems like maybe we could always use a little more. That doesn't like count for anything.
Yeah, it counts for something, because that means that as a collective, they are creating it. Because, but if you, within your example, Leigh, that means that each one of those 10 people has created peace within themselves. That's what that means, the statement that you are saying. And what I was talking about is that people who are praying for it think it's not there. Your example is the people that were focusing on it already have internalized it. They believe it exists. They see it existing. So they've come together collectively because each one of them has dealt with peace internally. So they're coming from a whole different perspective than a group of people who feel, let us pray for peace. If you're praying for it, you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference between the scenario that you gave us, which I think was really interesting and good for us to hear that, in comparison to this other scenario. Because you can be in tuned within a group, and everybody's going to be in tuned at their own perception of understanding. But yet, if we claim it, they use the word claim in metaphysics, claim what you want. But in claiming that, it's important to recognize that you already have it.
Greta, would you agree that in that scenario, those people are amplifying the energy, which is occurring externally because it already exists internally?
In which scenario? The
one that Leigh gave, where the people already recognize peace within themselves.
Then they're augmenting it. Then they're, as a collective, they're joining energies together and focusing on that, and with the idea that they are going to create that within their experience, their collective experience. Because remember now, it's going to be peace within their collective experience. It doesn't mean that it's going to be there in another group's collective experience.
So basically is not going to end a war, for instance.
No, not really.
Okay.
Because what is war in the first place? War starts out of a very strong emotion, and that's fear.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Leigh?
Oh, I was just saying, it's almost like the two groups. One is operating a little bit from a kind of a lack perspective, and the other one operating from more of a abundance perspective, saying like, this is already internally there and we'd like to give more, just kind of give it out there to the collective field,
Yeah, I would be in agreement with that. It's augmenting it. It's sending it out. It's like my daughter, when give a good example. When Kai asked me, she said, "Ma, who do you love the best?" And people have heard me say this example before. And I told her I love myself. And she said, "You don't love me more?" I said, "Absolutely not." I said, "Because if I don't love myself, how can I love you?" So the same thing goes. If I'm not in peace with myself, how can I send out peace? And it's because the only way I can send it out is that it's in me. It's got to be in me, you see. There's so many wars that are going on, altercations, all of this is going on, but the collective people who have decided to create this experience, and some people in our audience may not want to hear that a group of people has created something, but that's the only way something can occur. You have to create it first. So they joined and created this reality. And then they're inside the reality. It's just like having a box, and you're going to put a box inside a box. So the box is the desire, the collective desire to have altercations. And then, but then there's a smaller individual box for each other person that's involved in the altercation. And each person who is inside that box has their own little box, and they are experiencing their own personal reality within that collective. The collective is to have war. The individual experience could be, am I going to live or am I going to transition out of here? Which is also a decision. So it's seeing in cases of war, we have to just hold and say peace. Hold it, just hold it. It's holding the energy of peace. That's what's important, to hold it. Holding it is can be a challenge, because there can be all these other illusions around you that want to take you from that holding of peace. But you hold anyway. You train yourself to hold anyway, regardless of what you see around you. You know, it's to hold. I am in peace. I am experiencing peace at every moment of my life. That's an affirmation right there. I am experiencing peace in every moment of my existence, in this reality and other realities in which I simultaneously exist. So I'm claiming that. That is, but I can't claim it for anybody else but myself, because the only person I'm ever in charge of is me. And that's it. So, but if I can hold peace within myself, and I can say, hey, I got a lot of energy, you know, I don't mind sending you some, you know, but it's up to you to take it. It's up to you to use it, you know. It's not up to me to tell you to use it.
So, Greta, it's really people understanding about illusion, and that creation of reality is acceptance of all realities, regardless of who's creating them. And we try not to use the word judgment, because people tend to think in terms of good versus evil, or, you know, things are bad, or positive versus negative, and that's still illusion too. And I think one of the most difficult areas of acceptance that I've dealt with creation of reality is accepting the so-called bad along with the good, and realizing that it's still an illusion. And I shouldn't be judging others for having that illusion, because they may be just coming from a point of fear instead of peace within themselves.
Absolutely. And it's by perception.
Right.
You know, it's perception really is an interesting phenomenon, in that it provides us with how the illusions and how we're going to see them. It's like when you can have an automobile accident and you have 50 people standing around, everybody has a different perspective about how it happened. You know, like you can see if a person comes into a store and then just walks out, and somebody says, did you see that man? Yes. What did he look like? Then somebody said, well, I think he's tall. The other person said, no, I think he's short, you know. So it's the perception. How do you perceive it? And see, you perceive by way of what is in you. See, so we're going right back to being inside. See, the challenges that we have are inside. The solutions to the challenges are inside. It's an illusion that it's outside, because the only person that we can deal with in creation of reality is ourselves. I've heard people say, well, I'm a co-creator. No. You may be a supporter, but you're not a co-creator. That person is creating their own reality. What you're going to do if you're coming along and you're interacting with that person, you're going to support them, but you're not going to create the reality. So you're not a co-creator. Even in a collective, even within a collective, everybody's still creating their own reality within that collective. So it's always about each one individually. I know Leigh wants to say something. I saw her eyes move down.
Oh, I was thinking as we were talking about the quotation says, peace is an experience in which you connect deeply with your inner being. Like it must be accomplished first within, that like peace part, you know, being accomplished within. Because, you know, recently, I guess between podcasts, I had come across this something called internal family systems. And it's a, let's say, a method where we can come to peace with the parts that exist within all of us, right? I mean, and these, it's a little multi-layered for this discussion, but essentially it's like we all have these parts in us, you know, I mean, and we say, you can talk this language when you say, well, I wanted to do something, but a part of me just wasn't on board. And, you know, so we all have these different kind of parts in us, like manager part or a judge part or a critical part. And, you know, it's our job to look internally to see, you know, what is within us and what we have operating. And mostly these parts are created due to some sort of traumatic event that was perceived, you know, at some point in our childhood. And these parts are trying to protect us, actually. They still think that we're the age we were when the event happened, and they've been on duty and on guard ever since. So I think it's just an interesting perspective for looking in, because I mean, it's easy to say, oh, we just have to be peaceful from within, you know, but you make you talking to someone and you say the wrong thing, and an hour after you leave, you could be saying to yourself, oh, why did you do that? I can't believe that you said that to that person in that way, or something, you know, you have an exchange with someone, whatever. I mean, I can only speak for me. Sometimes you could just do something wrong and, you know, all of these inner voices start to speak. And so I was just offering it out as a way, like maybe another tool, if someone's out there listening and wants to investigate a little more, to try to have another method to make some inner peace and recapture those parts of ourselves that we may have separated with.
You know,
Oh,
go ahead, Carol, go ahead.
I was going to say, wouldn't that just basically reflect the unconscious and the lesson learning? If we're reflecting on events that happened in early childhood and we're experiencing results from that, it's still part of an internal lesson that needs to be learned, and just recognizing it. And
Right.
our brains are very tricky. I mean, scientifically, they say your brain doesn't see what's really there or what you think is there. Because as we know in creation reality, it's all illusion anyway. But like Gretta alluded to, an accident with 50 people will give you 50 different perspectives of what they saw. And it's been proven too, you could stand shoulder to shoulder with a person looking at a rainbow, and you definitely are not seeing the same rainbow, because technically the light is reflecting differently from those raindrops to each of your eyes, which are a little distance apart from each other. So you need to trust, I think, your gut rather than your brain, if that's a fair assumption to make.
Well, what is the gut? The gut is our intuition. What is the intuition? That's our deep self.
Right.
It's the unconscious. The unconscious remembers everything, remembers every absolute thing. One way I think I can understand what Leigh is saying, that, it's easy to say, be peaceful. It can be, depending on what situation we're dealing with. It can be a challenge. But if it is a challenge, then note that it's a lesson that you have created to learn. Note that you have brought that to yourself. So, and when you bring it to yourself, and you want to say, how in the hell did I ever learn that? How did I bring that to myself? The one thing is to not to criticize yourself, not to blame yourself, not to beat up on yourself. Just say, okay, this is something I created. Now, then you start to focus on, how do I change it? Now, there's so many ways you can change something. You could be with a mate that you have presently, that you're saying to yourself, well, it's time for me to boogie out of here. I'm not doing well in this relationship. I don't know how I created him to come here, but I'm going to create him to go. But it's not creating him to go, it's creating yourself to go. But see, you got to always go into yourself. It's always in yourself. If you're in a situation, you're not happy in it, that means you're not peaceful. I don't care what the situation is. If you're not happy in it, you're not peaceful. So then what you want to do is, how can I change this? You can change this in so many ways. Here on the podcast, we've given maybe three different ways. We tell you can do an affirmation. We tell you can do QDRs. You can do a block with the QDR. You can write letters. You can do all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line is, maybe you don't know about all that. So it's real simple. I said it last week, to say, I don't want this anymore. I don't want it. And then you can say, I want to be peaceful. Or I am peaceful. I am peaceful. I'm claiming that I am peaceful. All hell could be breaking loose all around you. But it's to say to yourself, I am peaceful. Convince yourself, I am peaceful. I am peaceful. Because the only thing you created was the havoc. You created the havoc. We look at it, it's so easy to create the havoc. We go, look at what we created. I created arguments. I created fights. That was easy. We accepted that. We accept to create the havoc. And then we turn around and say, it's difficult for us to be peaceful.
Well, right. I mean, why is that? It seems so, we're programmed to, like you said, the havoc, okay, comes natural. But
Absolutely.
the peace is a little more, and is that just like a reflection of, just because there's so much energy maybe floating in the unconscious that, through, time, has been maybe a little less than peaceful. So it's just this, even with what we're seeing right now in current events, it's people who were oppressed and had atrocities, let's say from a creation of reality perspective, they were supported in atrocity, being created. And now they're just supporting somebody else with the same atrocities. So it's just a big loop. It's just like a cycle that, you know, energetically is just continuing.
Absolutely. And but we have to look at it that it's the lessons for all of us. It's lessons for us. It's lessons for the people that are in it, directly involved in the experience, as it is lessons for those of us who are outside of the experience, but yet we're emotionally inside the experience. You see, we don't have to put ourselves physically somewhere. We can be emotionally part of the experience, you know. So the thing is that once we understand that we want peace, then the thing is, when we're seeing all this, if you're watching it on YouTube, if you're watching all of this confusion and havoc on television or in documentaries, or however you perceive, however you're picking up the perceptions of it, but it's to still say within yourself, I must be peaceful within me. Because,
I mean,
go ahead.
No, I was wondering if that's kind of a good gauge that we can use when we're, you know, let's say, like you're saying, we're kind of, many of us are fortunate to be outside of a situation and we're seeing it on the news and other media type of things. So is it just like, is it a reflection to when we see something, oh, this is terrible, or, okay, this is something that I'm seeing and my outrage or my fury doesn't help the situation any, right? Because that's like a barometer of your own or not peacefulness. So if you're looking at something and it's triggering you, you know, I mean, that's like also something to look at. Why are you being so triggered? I mean, that's a good barometer, right? For us to maybe stop in awareness and say like, okay, what is my level of trigger in this? Am I, you know, triggered towards like peacefulness within, or am I angry and, you know, want revenge and this kind of thing? I don't know. Just,
well, see, it takes a while because you can see the people, regardless of where it is around the world, you know, crying out for assistance. They've created realities that are very quite challenging. You know, if I've seen someone come and kill my mother, how am I going to feel? You know, or kill my child? You know, I'm just going to go right there with that emotion. You see, because that's my instantaneous response. My instantaneous response is, let me get back at you because you hurt me. You hurt my mother. You know, so people are going to go there. But those of us who can hang with the idea and the understanding of creation of reality, then we hang with everything is okay. Everything is in peace, because these are lessons that we are learning. These are lessons, and it takes a while to get there. I'm not saying it's instantaneously, God knows. You know, I can look at it and go, how interesting. You know, and it's not to say that I don't feel for the people, you know. There's a certain level of my feeling, but at the same token, I recognize that they're creating this reality. I also recognize that there is no such thing as death. So my viewpoint of all of this mayhem is totally different, perhaps, than somebody else's viewpoint. You know, that it's a creation of reality. It's create, support, create. There's no such thing as death. People are just transitioning out and moving on to their next step in their life's journey. That's how I see it. So I'm not getting caught up into the emotion of it. I can understand how somebody feels that way. We want to empathize. I empathize with the people, regardless, I mean, we can have mayhem right here on the streets where we live. Somebody can walk up and just shoot somebody or whatever. I can I empathize with that. I understand how you feel, but I'm not going to sympathize with you, because empathizing keeps me in a state of peace of mind. Sympathizing takes me out of peace and puts me emotionally into the mayhem.
Right. So, I mean, but that's the beauty of all of our perspectives, right? Everyone is where they are, and it's also like a good way to maybe be a barometer of our, where we are in the realm of judgment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
And
Carol,
it's time for us to move
yeah.
on, I think.
Take a break. I just wanted to know if Carol had anything to add before we.
No, I just wanted to say that it's a constant state of reminding oneself to recognize when you're falling, because I for one struggle with that line of sympathy and empathy, and I cross over very easily from empathic to sympathetic, and I have to remind myself that those people are choosing to create their reality, and I just have to accept that and stay at peace and love with myself. So
Right, acceptance, and that we can all use this as a gauge for our understanding and awareness. So listeners, thank you for staying with us. We will take a short pause and we'll be back with hint hear what the realm has to say about this. This is Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. We'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. We are at the point of the podcast where the realm gets to weigh in on their quotation. Realm, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay.
All of us are here this morning.
Welcome. The quotation we've been talking about this morning is, peace is an experience in which you connect deeply with your inner being. It must be accomplished first within and then can be translated externally. So what do you have to share with us today?
3 words that are in that quote: your inner being. What is your inner being? Your inner being is your divinity. Your inner being is recognizing you're the force that created all of existence. That is the inner being. So seeking peace is going inside your inner being of your divinity. Seeking outside of it means you're not recognizing that you really are peace itself. That is your true state of beingness, because the force is peace within itself. So, but think of the force being everything. It creates all of existence. So everybody's conceptualization of peace is quite different. What does a blade of grass feel about peace? What does an ant feel about peace? What does an Arcturian think about peace? What does a reptilian think about peace? An Anunnakian, how do they feel about peace? You see, peace is such a wide experience. But it's to go inside self and seek your divinity of self. When you seek your divinity, you're not going to even look at another person being cruel. It's like, let us try and do this again. Cruel. Okay, you're perceiving, you're judging this person as being cruel. They're standing in front of you. They're being cruel. They're doing something that in your perception and in your judgment is being cruel. Now, that's the personality that that individual is showing you. That is a personality. But when you go deep inside, as you go deep inside, as you go deep inside yourself, you're going deep inside others as well. Now, can somebody tell me how is that?
Because we're all the force.
Absolutely.
And I think
when you're inside yourself and recognizing that, you're recognizing, I'm going to say it again, when you recognize your divinity within yourself, so are you automatically, simultaneously recognizing the divinity of everything in existence, regardless of how its personalities present themselves to you.
Realm, I have a question. I know we're not supposed to judge people because they're just creating their own reality, and we try not to use words that are judgmental, like cruel. But it's easier to say that than it is to understand that we're supporting someone who is committing atrocities against other people. What can we do to reinforce ourselves to not judge others?
I'm going to say the word we've been working with today.
Peace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Be in peace within yourself, because you have no control. You have absolutely no control over someone else being in peace. No control whatsoever. You know, it could be a collective. Everybody is going to, the airplane is going down. I can start screaming and hollering, or I can say, let me go within myself and I am in peace. It's like during the, we've been around for a while, but Greta saw something on TV, and she was, when the Vietnam War was happening, and the monks would douse themselves, they showed this on TV, would douse themselves with oil or kerosene or something, some type of burning fluid, and light themselves on fire, and then sit there and burn up. Just sit there and burn. How you wonder, how can somebody just sit there and burn? Why? Because the person moves inside self, sees themselves as divinity, and sees themselves in peace. I'm burning. You're looking at it going, oh my God, but I'm burning. And I am in peace with that experience that I have created for myself. So it's to go internal. That can be challenging for some people, especially for people who like to save people. There are always people who like to go out and save people, keep them from trauma and all of this type of thing. They're not going to be in peace, because when you want to be a savior, you're in great fear. because that means you're trying to control your environment. And you're trying to control your environment because you're fearful of it.
And you're not trusting that other person's creation of their reality.
Right, and you really don't, Carol. You don't
Yeah.
have to trust somebody else's creation of reality. The reality that you want to trust is you.
Mm.
You want to trust yourself. It's not a matter of you trusting someone else. Because see, when you trust yourself, the other person has to support you in trusting yourself. You see, that creates support.
Right.
However you think inside your brains, in your minds, that is what you're going to be supported with. If you think that you are garbage and you're not worthy and you're worthless and you're a degenerate, however you want to negate yourself, the other people will support you in that. They'll support you by showing you. They'll support you by saying things to you that support you. But then if you're a person who says, I love myself, I love myself, that means I'm starting the love within myself. I'm starting to recognize my own divinity within myself. Therefore, you're supporting me by recognizing it in me.
And why wouldn't we prefer to have the support of the high vibrational energy like self-love?
Why? Because some of us want to punish ourselves. Some of us lack self-esteem. Some of us have been taught as children that we're no good, we're not going to amount to anything. So we've been programmed. We've been taught that. A lot of the things that people do as adults, they've been taught that as children. So some of those behaviors that you received, you've taught yourself. So, but when you come to an opening of yourself, and what we mean by opening to yourself is that you decide you don't want to do this anymore. You don't want to be this way anymore. When you reach that point, then you are open to the changes. You're open to people coming to you to assist you in changing that. It might be, I don't like myself. I think I'm too fat or too skinny, or my body doesn't look as great as so-and-so's body. But then you change. You said, I'm not going to think that way anymore. I'm going to change how I think. That's it. Change how you think. Mm-hmm. Then that means the next person will go, oh, I like that dress you have on. Oh, your skin is so wonderful. Oh, I like your hair. I liked your speech. I liked your presentation. You see, then you're calling people to support you in your love of self, in which you are peaceful. Love of self and peace go hand in hand. They reverberate with each other. Peace. Another word that reverberates with them is ease. Love of self, peace, ease. So how do you, through this, we've been listening to all three of you, have been talking about, well, how do we change? How do we change? The thing is, the first thing you do is decide that you want to change. That's the first thing. Decide it. Because when you decide you want to change, you're going to bring and support that's going to come to you to assist you in your change that you are seeking. You see, just decide, I want to change. That's it. Decide it. Because as you decide it, you're creating that possibility. You're creating that. I'm going to take it out of possibility and move it into actuality. All you have to say is, I want to change. That's the key, everybody. I want to change. Yes.
Realm, I once had a previous teacher who, while she didn't know about creation of reality, she did have a lot of points that Greta has taught also. One of the things she had told me was to think about positive things about yourself as an exercise, and that comparing it to physical exercise, that the more you exercise, the stronger your muscles get. So it's the same thing with your mind. The more you're practicing love of self, the stronger that becomes. Would you give that a fair assessment?
Yes, because what are you doing? You're telling the unconscious, okay, we're changing. I'm changing from doing this to being this. I'm changing from experiencing alcoholism into experiencing sobriety. I've decided to change. So therefore, everything is going to come to you to support you in that change. So everything begins with you. It's not about being somewhere else. Have I answered that question, Carol?
Yes, Rome, you did. I have an interesting perspective when you talked about alcoholism and sobriety. I did not struggle with alcoholism, but I did struggle with drug abuse. And when I made the decision to stop, I literally just stopped. And what I found happened was that the people who were around me at that time, who were supporting my substance abuse, they just seemed to drift away. So it's not necessarily that I received support from other people for being sobriety, but that the people who were supporting me not being sober went away, like just left my life.
That was the support right there.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that they left because you made the decision, so they could no longer support you that way. So they supported you by leaving.
Yeah, that's true.
Realm.
So it is still support. Yes.
We are wrapping up the podcast. I just wanted to give Carol, in case there were some listeners who weren't here at the very beginning, can you just say where Greta will be this weekend?
Yes, I can. Give me 2 seconds to look up the address again. Folks, this is Brooklyn, Greta, in person. And I can tell you from the last seminar she did, the workshop was so outrageously good. I can't even begin to tell everyone, but she will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this week at the New Life Expo. It's at the BK Loft 26 at 153 26th Street. And I believe that is in Brooklyn. You can look it up. And I am actually summarizing people's conceptions of how they felt, their evaluations of the last workshop she did, and I can tell you it's like rave reviews. So if you have a chance to go see Greta, please do so. You won't.
And Carol, what are those dates just for people?
October 27th, 28th, and 29th. So this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay, great.
We're there too.
Oh, of course. Sorry, Realm. Yes, of course. That's very important.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Realm, for sharing your wisdom. This has been another episode of Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. Until we create each other again, be well.
Once again, thanks for joining us at Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on TransformationTalkRadio.com. As you have explored today's creation of reality experience with the realm and me, Greta, each of you is being supported by us in further developing the understanding that you are not just an individual existing in linear time and space, but a multi-dimensional force of infinite possibilities who is connected to all. So begin to create the realities you want. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Shifting Impressions at transformationtalkradio.com. So long until we create each other again next Friday.